changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration to make you simply happy. So, have you ever thought about saying something kind to a stranger, but then held back, thinking that maybe you shouldn't interfere, or it wasn't your place, or the person wouldn't like it? Well, I've learned from our stories not to hold back. We had a bunch of examples of this in our best-selling book that came out in February, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Random Acts of Kindness. We've already done 2 reprints, and we've printed more than 80,000 copies. So you can see that random acts of kindness are of great interest to people these days. The first story I want to share with you is by May Hutchings, and it's called, Are You Okay? Which gives you an idea of just how simple an inquiry to a stranger can be. Are you okay? May tells us that she was exhausted and stressed when her 2-year-old started complaining that he was hungry. They were at the drugstore to pick up some medicine for him, and the day had already been hectic, but now he was hungry. May was a divorced single mother, so it all fell on her. And her little boy was looking at her with those trusting eyes. You know those eyes. Her boy just assumed that his all-powerful mother would magically conjure up some food for him right then and there. But May, who was trying to raise her boy and pay for college, was not happy about buying food at the drugstore, where sandwiches cost a few dollars each instead of the $1 she could spend at McDonald's. Finally, she gave in, and she bought the food at the drugstore. But then there was the issue of where to eat it. They live in Arizona, and the air conditioning in their car wasn't working. So they sat on the sidewalk in the shade right in front of the store, eating their sandwiches. As they sat there, a nicely dressed, professional-looking woman walked by them, smiling as she went into the store. May could see that the woman was hesitating, looking back at them as she entered the store. When she came back out, she still looked like she wanted to talk to them, but she went back to her car. But May could see she was still struggling with what to do. Finally, the woman came back from her car and said, Are you okay? Do you need anything? May assured her they were okay, even though she knew they really weren't. But she realized that the situation must look even worse than it really was. The lady might have assumed that May and her boy were homeless. The woman still looked hesitant, but she smiled at them again and set off in her car. And May says, It was such a small thing, really, only a few minutes. Yet that was 8 years ago, and I have never forgotten it. She says, Those who knew me did not make offers to help or ask if I needed anything, but this perfect stranger took the time to stop and care. She concludes her story by writing, Every time I get discouraged about the world and people, this memory brings me yet another ray of hope and keeps me going just a little bit longer, all because one stranger took the time to ask, Are you okay? Now, in the same book, Mike Ford wrote a story about random acts of kindness about a stranger who actually saved his life. Mike was a teenager and going through a very rough time. He had gradually realized that he was different from most of the boys. He was gay. Being different was not easy, and some of the other kids could tell that he was different, and he was teased a lot. He was depressed, and like many teens, even though his parents tried to help him, talking to them didn't feel like an option to him. He was afraid to tell them what was bothering him, as he had seen other kids come out to their parents and then get kicked out of their houses. Looking back, Mike wishes he had asked for help, but he tried to tough it out himself, and he even put on a happy facade, cracking jokes and being that entertaining kid. But underneath that cheerful facade, Mike was thinking about killing himself. The last straw was when Mike's best friend, a girl, dropped him. She didn't want to hang out with a gay guy anymore in case it interfered with her ability to get a boyfriend. One night, Mike was out food shopping with his mom, and it felt to him like the other kids in the store were looking at him and talking about him. They all knew that he was gay, and he decided he would end it. He would kill himself by the end of the week, put himself out of his misery. But then an elderly woman shuffled up beside him, pushing her cart. She had short white hair, and her skin was wrinkled and freckled. Her eyes were steely gray. She reached her hand out to touch his cheek. "It gets better, child," she whispered. She gave him a sympathetic smile, as if she knew exactly what was going on, and she walked away. Mike started crying. He says that woman saved his life. Her message, "It gets better, child," became his mantra. He says all she did was say 4 words. She never knew me. She didn't know my name or the weight I carried, and she will never know how big an impact those 4 words made. I wish I knew who she was so I could tell her how much she has changed me for the better. There's a quote that's attributed to Mother Teresa that she may or may not have said, but it's a great quote anyway for this episode. Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. So that's one of the popular themes from Chicken Soup for the Soul Random Acts of Kindness. Don't be afraid to say a few kind words to a stranger. Come back tomorrow for Tip Tuesday. We're going to talk about one of the most popular themes from my book, Simply Happy, which is how to clear toxic people from your life and spend time with people who truly make you happy.